Wendy, let's start with you. And what are you hearing? What do you anticipate?
So I'm anticipating that we're going to see tariff hikes in the early days of the Trump administration. Trump has put a lot of tariff proposals out there. He loves tariffs. And I think we need to be ready to see across the board tariffs, maybe with some exceptions against all trading partners, as well as up to 60% tariffs against Chinese imports.
So when sort of many say, now there's no way 60%, that's just a negotiating chip, that's a bargaining point, and we know that was true to some extent in the first Trump administration. What's your response to that?
So my response is maybe he starts with 30 and he says if we're within 3 months, if we don't have a deal or we don't see a change in our trade deficit with China, then we go to 60. He can stage this in. He can offer some product exclusions. But I think he's serious. And I think Robert Lighthizer, one of his key advisors here, is extremely serious and has laid out kind of the path here. And that is more towards decoupling from China than negotiating a deal with China.
Would you anticipate, I mean, I can anticipate, if the price of things from China starts going up a significant amount, that there's going to be some consumer outcry. What's the president's plan to offset or cushion that?
Well, that's a great question. And the issue is, can we trade enough and have good relations with other countries and build more in America so as not to be as dependent on China? And I think the other message will be there may be some short-term cost in order to achieve our long-term objectives with China, and that is to reduce our dependency on China.
You know, the irony is that it might be needed medicine for the U.S. to rebalance away from consuming more than we produce. Maybe we're in an era now where we'd like to produce what we consume, or at least a bigger portion. But I don't see how that doesn't take a huge toll on consumers. It's a painful adjustment. Even if the sort of pot of gold at the end of that rainbow is more jobs, it's going to be much more costly for U.S. consumers in the meantime. After they're dealing with inflation. I mean, they're coming off an era where they threw out the previous party because of inflation, and consumer prices may go up yet again.
And that's exactly why Biden took a more targeted tariff approach. He raised selective tariffs against China. So let's see if some Trump advisors can convince the incoming president that across the board tariff is not in your interest. It's going to wreak havoc on the U.S. economy as voters look to you, Mr. President, to turn the economy around.
Wendy, what do you think is the realistic timeline for tariff policy or any major change on the international front to affect domestic production? So if we said, OK, it's a 60% tariff on China, how quickly do you really think we could bring online U.S. domestic production or other lower cost areas? Because it would seem to me to be years, but maybe maybe it can be quicker.
Well, some of that's already happening, given the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Bill, and the CHIPS Act. And a number of companies over the past 8 years are diversifying their locations for production to the U.S., to Mexico, and elsewhere around the world. Some sectors, it's going to take a lot longer to relocate production. We've seen that, like the auto sector. In other sectors, things can move more quickly.
What sectors might those be? And what else will you be watching to kind of look at the implementation of trade policy? And how much can happen in the first few days? How much can happen in the first few months? And what should we expect to have happened after the first couple of years?
Well, I think what's going to be key to watch is how our trading partners respond. Do they respond by coming to Washington and trying to seek a deal? Or do they start counter-retaliating, and then we get back into a scenario which could be along the lines of the trade war we had with China during the first term?
And what was the ultimate economic effect of all of that, as far as you're concerned?
As far as I'm concerned, consumers paid, businesses paid, and consumers and businesses are still paying. Now, some of that was cushioned because not all tariff cuts are passed on to the consumer. The producer swallows some of them. The foreign company swallows some of the cost. And so, but that's when tariffs were a lot lower. If you're talking about tariffs in the range of 60%, I think the impact is going to be a lot quicker and a lot more severe.